Welcome back to Virteva's Let's Talk podcast, the show where we dive into the latest and greatest Microsoft cloud technologies and help you understand how they can help your business thrive. It's episode 22. I'm Scott Ledwan, and today we're talking about new features headed to Copilot for Microsoft 365, including a new risk assessment guide for organizations interested in adopting Copilot, improvements to graph grounding in both Microsoft Outlook and Microsoft Teams, easier pasting of tables in Microsoft Word, enhancements to the ways that Copilot can summarize data across different dates and times, and new prompt collections are being added to Copilot Lab to help both your sales and finance teams. Before we get into the news for the week, we'd like to take a moment to ask you to please hit those like, subscribe, and share buttons to help the channel grow and to get our message out to more people. We recently passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and it would be awesome if we could hit 2,000 by the end of the year. It's been a while since we've done a Let's Talk podcast, so I wanted to thank everyone for tuning in and let you know that we've got 2 more podcasts coming up over the next few weeks. First, Chris and I are going to be breaking down the biggest news and announcements from Microsoft's security event that's happening on September 10th. And then Holly and I will be back in a few weeks to talk through the Copilot Wave 2 announcements coming in the middle of September. So for those that regularly follow our Let's Talk and Roadmap Rundown podcast, we've taken about a month off. We're coming back now from the break after Labor Day and looking through just kind of the roadmap and what's in Message Center and what's available. Is we decided that since that was a little bit on the thinner side, we wanted to take a moment to look at another publication that Microsoft does in more of a Let's Talk format, specifically around Copilot for Microsoft 365 and likely the soon to be branded Copilot experience, which sounds like it's soon going to be renamed to Microsoft Copilot 365. So they're making it roll off the tongue. There'll be more about that coming up in the podcast in a few weeks that I do with Holly. But specifically, Microsoft does a monthly posting at the end of each month called What's New in Copilot. And these aren't always items that show up in Message Center or show up on the roadmap. So we wanted to take some time this week in a shorter podcast just to talk about some new stuff that showed up in August that you should be aware of. A, if you're a Copilot user, and B, if you're someone that's looking into potentially adopting Copilot. So the first thing that I wanted to look at is the first item under the administration and management capabilities. We're not going to spend a lot of time looking at too many more of those items in that area, at least for this podcast, but it is important to be aware that they have added additional language support for Copilot. Dashboards are getting more favorably integrated, I guess you could say, into Microsoft Glint and Viva Pulse. And Copilot is also expanding its reach kind of into the public sector. So I want to really focus on the assessment QuickStart guide that Microsoft has provided, specifically because I feel like that is one of the biggest questions we get from customers is, how do I best prepare? And while Virteva, we have our own Copilot Expeditionary package that we offer that really walks you through kind of nuts to bolts on what is Copilot? How do I implement it? How do I be successful? Can you help us with a pilot? There's just some initial things that I think that this risk assessment QuickStart guide will help initial customers kind of just take a peek under the hood and better understand some need to know things before they really start looking at even potentially investing in licenses for the product. So as we click forward here and kind of take a look at what that is, Microsoft has put out a risk assessment start guide. Really what this again is meant to do is provide organizations with more of a comprehensive risk assessment for Copilot for Microsoft 365. So we're going to click into the Copilot for Microsoft 365 Risk Assessment QuickStart Guide, and I'm going to kind of give you a peek at what Microsoft is providing here. So the document is meant to be an initial reference to help you identify risk within your organization, mitigate mitigations that you need to put in place while you're going through those processes, and just kind of get the ball rolling or thoughts kind of moving on those initial stakeholder discussions you should be having when you're talking about implementing and optimizing your Copilot adoption strategy. So if we take a quick look at what that document looks like, that you can download directly from the link, and again, I'll share that in the show notes, we'll see that Microsoft is providing a risk assessment PDF that you can scroll through here, and we'll just kind of take a look at the table of contents on what to expect. So, there's, of course, going to be an executive summary, but then it really kind of goes down and talks about how mitigation is a shared responsibility. It talks about how Copilot works. It talks about security, life cycle, best practices, and really kind of gives you a better idea of how OpenAI's code is interfacing both with Copilot and with your data. As you kind of go through that document a little bit deeper, you'll see that there is a sample risk assessment, which we'll actually go to here real quick, that kind of gives you a better idea of, hey, these are the questions and answers that you should be going through. And these are the things that really are informative for your organization to understand. These are the top questions that organizations ask, and this is how Microsoft answers those. So it is about 39 pages, but they do provide a lot of different answers and input that can, help you make that best effort assessment of, are we ready for this? What else do we need to do internally to prepare our organization? Again, very similar to what Virteva does. We do it in a more proactive, engaged way where you can ask us questions, we provide answers, best practices, and kind of walk you through the entirety of what Copilot is, how to adopt it, how to adhere to those best practices, and how to get your data estate in the right order to make sure that you're not overly exposing any of your data or taking on risks that you're not willing to take on. So again, Microsoft has quite a few different security questions and answers here around risk and implementation to prepare you. These are all things that we would help you with as well. But this is just a nice thing that Microsoft rolled out to the community here that is available to anyone to take a peek at and get a better idea of where your organization is at today in terms of adoption. Is this something that I wish they more proactively provided at the time that they rolled Copilot out in January of this previous year? Absolutely, 100%. We certainly have our own kind of feelings on how Copilot was a little bit rushed to market to kind of get on those tailwinds of all the announcements that happened the previous year with Copilot and everything that Microsoft was doing with generative AI. But it is nice to finally see that this is out there for customers or potential customers to read through and better understand how they can adopt and mitigate risk both before and while adopting Copilot. So next up here, we're looking at improvements overall being made to Copilot for Microsoft 365 with better graph-grounded chat. This has been being able to talk to Copilot and ask it to reference your files and your chats and your emails has been fantastic. But it has at the same time been a little bit lackluster in some areas. And for those of you that have already adopted Copilot, I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about. So Microsoft is making several improvements to this this September, so this month, to make that graph grounding and chat a little bit better. And when I talk about the chat experience, again, I'm talking about when you go to chat in Teams or you go to kind of copilot.microsoft.com and you click on like that work tab at the top to ask Copilot questions specifically about files, meetings, Teams messages within your organization. So first off, one of the things that Copilot has done so far with Outlook is it has been able to kind of see that top level inbox. So it can see messages in your inbox, but it's not always as good at looking at subfolders, or in this case, as it's mentioned here on the screen, is that archive mailbox. So if you have a retention policy in place that every 3 months, old mail that's no longer relevant is getting pushed into an online archive folder. Copilot hasn't been able to do a good job of finding that stuff today. So that's going to be an improvement that we see, as well as the ability for you to, when you're chatting with it, navigate into specific folders or subfolders within your mailbox to better prioritize and understand messages that maybe you've moved out of your primary inbox location and it wasn't able to see before. Another area where Copilot is getting better too is, so today it's good at looking at meeting chats and one-on-one chats, but it kind of fails to get good relevant information when you're trying to see what's in a group conversation. So they're making improvements to that finally. I'm very excited to see that. I think that this is part of the broader strategy as they're starting to move closer to that team Copilot, where it's almost like you're going to have an automated assistant in the chat room acting like a person rather than just an AI bot that you ask questions to during your meeting. One other thing too that is worth mentioning is on top of improving how it's working in Outlook and Teams, we're also seeing significant improvements in its ability to kind of reason with larger data sources via prompts. So today, Copilot is fairly limited to kind of short messages. With these improvements, we're going to see an increase from 2,000 to 16,000 characters. So if you've got someone on your team that is copying and pasting a lot of information out of like a news article and dumping it into a chat, whether it be in a meeting, a one-on-one chat, a group chat, is Copilot is going to be able to do a better job of specifically looking at that and being able to put it more in context. Copilot also recently rolled out to Microsoft OneDrive, and it's going to be able to do a better job of graph grounding when you're talking to it in the Teams chat area or the copilot.microsoft.com area, of understanding, hey, you not only have files out there on SharePoint or a file shared in Teams or Outlook, but I can also see files that are sitting on your OneDrive that maybe you shared, or maybe you're trying to add a file on your OneDrive. So it's going to be able to do a better job of finding those type of things and pull them into the larger context when you're having those prompt-based conversations with Copilot. And again, it's important to remember too, is when you're having those conversations with Copilot, you want to make sure that you're providing context, a clear goal, as much information as possible. It's not just a Google search with Copilot of type 3 words and expect back the world. Instead, what you really need to do is kind of have a conversation with it, almost like you're talking to someone that you work with on a daily basis. But these improvements to Copilot graph grounding for chat, it's going to be great. I've already seen some of this in my day-to-day get better, and I'm seeing more and more of this start to improve in Outlook, even outside of the chat experience when I'm trying to reference meetings or files or recurring meetings on my calendar. So Microsoft is really going quite a ways to add on and enhance to the additional value of Copilot here. And I'm excited to see how this continues to grow and evolve as we head into Ignite in November and into the beginning of next year. So the next enhancement Microsoft lays out here is a enhancement that they're making to pasting content into Copilot with Word. This has been something that has been improving month over month, I feel like, since the spring, and they're adding more value to this. So when Copilot and Word first rolled out, is if you were trying to paste like a table or you were trying to paste information from a different web page in, is I think everyone has kind of run across that situation where you paste something in and it does not merge the formatting very well. And then you've got to spend the next 15 minutes cleaning up the document to make it look presentable. What Microsoft is doing with this enhancement is they're giving you the ability, and I'll blow this screenshot up here so that everyone can kind of see it, is they are making it easier for you to take that raw data, interact with it, visualize from a table, visualize a list, ask additional prompts, format the data better. These are all things that I feel like Copilot in a lot of cases often feels like it is a glorified summarization tool at its heart, and that is most of what it does. But as we're starting to see more and more with Word and in the other different Microsoft 365 applications, is Copilot is finally starting to kind of come into its own and be able to do more to interact with the data rather than just summarize or rewrite the data. So being able to visualize numbers into a table, being able to format data into more of a list format when it is kind of more of that raw in the sense, just kind of sloppy table or sloppy data that gets pasted in. This is really making the experience in Word better for all the users. When we work with different organizations today, they always tell us, we love it in Outlook, we love it in Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. It's good, but it just doesn't seem like it does enough. These are the it doesn't seem like it does enough improvements that Microsoft is making to make this a better product. We've seen them starting to implement it with Word. Now they're taking the next step. They're adding more abilities to format using Copilot. We're seeing those enhancements start to show up in Excel, we're seeing them start to show up in PowerPoint, but I wanted to call out this one specifically for August, as this is starting to roll out to Copilot users late August, early September. Most Copilot users should have it by October, but small little enhancement here compared to the other ones that we've talked about so far today. But this one is huge. This goes to show that Microsoft is continuing to invest in the product and the service and the features and make it a better product so that you feel like you're getting your $30 per user per month out of it. So for those of you that have used Copilot in Teams like I have, you've probably realized over the last however many months that you've been using it that Copilot is great at summarizing the meeting you just came from. But if it is a recurring meeting and there are many meetings on top of meetings, and you needed to go back and summarize a meeting from 2 weeks ago, it has been traditionally pretty bad at doing that. So this next enhancement is giving Copilot the ability to summarize content over a specific period of time with Copilot and Teams. So this is amazing. Like, I am so happy to see that Microsoft has spent the time and invested that in Teams so that you can give better prompt based phrases like yesterday, last month, 6 months, or even give it a specific date or month to say, hey, summarize the action items that came out of the month of November 2023. And Copilot can go back and it can see all the information that happened in that meeting or within that time span, and then it can give you a summary. So if you were on vacation for 2 weeks in August and you were there for the first meeting of the month and the last meeting of the month, but you needed to get kind of a more holistic view of what happened between the second Monday of the month and the fourth Monday of the month, is you could put these prompts into Copilot in Teams, and it can give you a better filtered result. Now, you can still also do this for in Teams meetings, specifically by scrolling up and finding all the different recap buttons. There was a feature that existed in Teams that you could actually click on the different recap dates and it will give you um, an option to choose the date of the meeting that was for a recurring meeting. But that has seemingly disappeared, at least for me, within the last couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that that makes its way back in. But this is helpful in the Teams meeting sense, but it is also helpful if, like, you are in a group conversation with 3 or 4 or more people, and that conversation continues happening while you're on vacation and you just want to quickly catch up. You don't want to have to scroll back through all the messages that happen in that conversation. Instead, you want Copilot to just catch you up on that certain period of time and not everything that's happened in there over the last month, 2 months, 3 months. Because again, we all know the Copilot has its limitations on how much raw text data it can spit out. And if you're telling it to summarize a very large window of data, is you're going to get a very, very high level overview of it. So being able to kind of say, hey, start here, end here, or look at what happened last month and tell me what happened last month. These new enhancements that they're making the Copilot starting at late August and moving into September, these are going to be great. I'm really looking forward to seeing how well these work over time. And again, what I'm hoping for too is in Teams meetings is that drop down for those individual recaps is going to show back up so that I don't have to scroll back through every piece of the meeting to find those recaps. Though I will say, if you are a OneNote user, you should most definitely start creating new meetings in OneNote and then using the meeting details feature. You click on the meeting in your calendar, and then as the meeting ends, a few minutes after it ends and Copilot has had a chance to look at the transcription and the recording, click refresh page, and it will automatically put all of your AI-powered meeting notes and tasks directly into that OneNote. And if it's a meeting you didn't attend, you can do the same thing. You don't have to be there. You just have to be on the invite or following the meeting to be able to get that level of data. So as we're going through our own Copilot expeditionary package with customers and helping them through the pilot and helping them kind of understand, how do I be a better prompt engineer? Oftentimes what we hear from them is, hey, Copilot Lab is really great at providing me basic prompts for Word and Excel and PowerPoint, but it's not always as good at providing me specific prompt ideas around different job roles. And where we have commonly heard this, and obviously Microsoft has as well, based on this posting here, is Sales, finance, and energy sectors, specifically for us, sales and finance, oftentimes can't find good prompts. So they're kind of stuck with going out there and looking at YouTube videos, trying to Google some answers, coming to us, emailing us, asking questions, um, and just trying to get a better idea of like, I don't know how to prompt this. Like, we're in a specific industry, sales, finance, and Microsoft has not done a good job of putting these things kind of into that Copilot Lab area. So Microsoft in this news post has finally built out some more prompt-based collections, specifically around sales, finance, and energy. They rolled out a first set of collections back in May. They are now in the process of rolling out more of these into Copilot Lab, and I think that this is great. Copilot Lab, as we talk about with different customers that we work with, is a great go-to first resource when you're adopting Copilot for new members, and then as you're rolling out to larger parts of your organization for larger parts of the business. Is having a champions network is great, so you can just kind of go in and say, hey, how do I prompt Copilot to do this? But just having a resource that's almost like a pre-built message, pre-built or prefabricated message board of different ideas can really help customers develop better prompts and get better ideas. Microsoft is also making it easier to share prompts through Copilot Lab, and we're going to be seeing more of that happening in September and October. But just kind of taking a real quick peek at Copilot Lab is, if you go to copilot.cloud.microsoft. You can go over to Copilot Lab. You can look at different prompts to try based on the app that you're using, based on the task that you're trying to accomplish. And now, as we're talking here, what you can do with departments or industries. So financial services is one of the ones that they added. So by filtering down on this, and then I'm going to go back and say, hey, I want to do this specifically for Outlook and Word, is we can see that there's some new prompts here for cash management, investment planning, developing a financial plan. If you click on any of those, it pops that prompt right open. It's pre-written out for you. You can share that prompt directly with others. It copies the link, or you can just copy the prompt and then you can paste it in. It shows you where it works. And then it also gives you kind of steps on, hey, how do I make this prompt more my own? We talked about that earlier in the show about always making sure that you're providing clear context, a goal, referencing files, really having a conversation with Copilot rather than just saying, do this. Copilot's not going to do a good job if you're just saying, do it, because all it's going to do is it's going to do the base value, and it's not going to incorporate any of your values or any of your company's ideas or values into it. So really, again, like, if you're in the financial sector, this is a great tool for you. Just make sure that you're not always just taking recommend strategies in cash management to help me increase the financial goal of reducing tax liability. Try and talk about the industry you're in. Try and talk about what you've already done to do this. What else can I do? Copilot, help me with that. And that is really where you get the value out of Copilot Lab and just prompting in general. So yeah, this is a quick one again, but new prompt collections coming for different industries is big. I hope Microsoft continues to expand on this past sales, finance, and energy. Technology would be huge. Customer service would be huge. There's a lot more that you can really expand on, especially as you kind of go into different niche areas. And I'm excited to see that Microsoft is continuing to spend time and invest energy into continuing to build out Copilot Lab rather than just putting it out there and kind of leaving it there to exist, but never really get better. So as they continue to invest more time into this and the other features that we've talked about today, I think that it really is only over time continuing to increase the value proposition of Copilot and get more organizations out there interested in adopting the tool to help streamline their own work and save time in their day-to-day operations. Thanks again for tuning in. And if there were any announcements today that you want to dig further into, we've made them available in the show notes, as always. And if your organization is interested in Microsoft 365 or is already using it today and needs help implementing or managing services, you can contact Virteva by emailing us at letstalk@virteva.com or by visiting our website at www.virteva.com. And if you made it this far, please don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps us out. Take care, all.